This ain't no secret. We know that something is off in this country and has been for a little while now. Late stage capitalism. You know, it's a experiment, the great American experiment, and capitalism has gotten us to this point, to its credit, but things are getting out of hand. We got a video from a homestead journey. Americans are starting to see what's coming to this country and they can't ignore it anymore. Let's get into this.
But it's going to get pretty serious, okay? This is to all the lettered agencies in this country, United States of America. We the people want our country back. And we're not asking you to give it back. We're telling you we're taking our country back.
Oh, you think you're free in this country? Okay. It's an illusion. You wait till your car doesn't start. They shut off the power on you. You can't access your money in your bank account. They are building an electronic cage around you, around your children, their future. All these corrupt politicians are all a part of it. All of them. Every single one.
Yeah, I think evidence of that is, it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it's sometimes the truth is cliched. It just keeps getting said over and over again. And it's regardless of who is in power politically, things never seem to change for the average man. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. The middle class and the lower middle class remain the middle class and the lower middle class. And as a matter of fact, they get worse. So who once was the upper middle class moves to middle moves to lower middle class is not even a thing anymore. I mean, it's just poverty. So, there's something to be said about that.
You better have a plan. Things are going to get a lot worse.
One of the saddest things about the United States right now is how deeply unaware most American citizens are of what is coming for us in 2027, because we've chosen not to. Everything else is so crazy and we're all working too hard to get by. What's coming is going to hurt even more than what we're going through right now.
If you're not awake yet, there actually might not be any hope for you, because they put it out there for you. They put it right in front of your face every single day, all day long. They put it in your face. It's up to you to choose to actually see it. It's up to you.
I think that most Americans see what's going on. It's just, unfortunately, it's a matter of complacency. When people make videos like this and they talk as if they see the Matrix and other people don't, I think most people in this country do understand what's going on, but they feel as though they can do nothing about it. And their hopelessness is offset by complacency. Like they kind of take a trade off. If you can get DoorDash and you can get Hulu, then fuck it. Just let it burn. If you can get YouTube or whatever, then you'll take the trade off. I think it's more a feeling of complacency forced by hopelessness. Did I say that right? Yeah. More than people just not knowing what's going on.
I quit my job recently, I guess to add to the voices of Americans who are furious with the way things are going right now. I had a good, cushy government job, made decent money, and I guess I just feel like I can't stand by anymore and watch these people, my country. I feel like we're seeing the last of a dying empire, and the people at the top are trying to squeeze every last bit they can from it and leave nothing for my kids and my grandchildren. And I guess I feel like I can't stand around and let that happen anymore. So, yeah, I've become self-employed, and I'm going to at least spend part of my time speaking into this camera to see if I can help someone out there. Wake up, deprogram, maybe start to look around and, see what's happening and to be able to kind of, I guess, decode a lot of the bullshit that's going on right now. This right-left paradigm that they've put everybody in, It's all bullshit. It's all WWE. It's all professional wrestling shit to keep you distracted from the power structure at the top.
Yeah, and I think that a couple things there. I think that one thing about the left-right paradigm, one good thing you could say about this recent war is it's exposing just how much of a farce it is and how much bullshit it actually is, because you got the left saying this, you got the right saying this, but they all seem to come to agreement that I'm not trying to, you know what, I don't even want to say the word because I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube, but they all seem to have come to agreement that a certain ally of ours needs unlimited funding and unlimited support all the time. It's funny how there's two opposing sides and they're telling you they're opposing this thing, but they end up at the same conclusion every time pertaining this one particular ally. And I think that definitely helps to the farce. And as far as late stage capitalism goes, Henry Ford, he gave his workers a livable wage, not because he cared about the common man. He probably didn't give two shits about the common man, but he understood that if they didn't have capital, hence capitalism, they would have nothing to give back into the economy, which would make it non-circular. So they can't give corporations money and corporations can't give us products. So the logistical error with late stage capitalism is if all the capital goes towards a very small amount of people and we have none to spend, well, what happens then?
I really feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone right now, and I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and I don't understand how we are literally looking at the desecration of democracy in the United States of America right now. And I feel like nobody is talking about it. Like, you go out in public and nobody's talking about it. I go to work, nobody's talking about it. They're talking about Love Island bullshit. It's just, I feel like everyone is sticking their head in the sand. Our food is being contaminated. We have no FDA regulations anymore. That's out the window. They're saying, oh, no, false positive. And yet people are just allowing it to happen and pretending like everything's going to be okay. It's not okay. When is the uprising going to start? Are we going to be the generation that just sits back and does absolutely nothing and doesn't say anything? Because I feel like that's the direction we're headed.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
No, it's not just you. There's multiple people throughout my comments who've been saying that their vegetables aren't growing, their plants, tomatoes aren't growing. Some people, I think one person said theirs was up to 10 foot tall and wasn't producing any fruit. So we've had ours in the ground since middle of May sometime. I'll show you what they look like here in a second. It's pitiful. Just a quick snapshot of our tomatoes here. They're just kind of lollygagging along. They've tried to die multiple times. Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on. We haven't even gotten a single tomato this year. And for the first time, we finally got zucchini and squash growing. So you're not.
This is strange. I did not know this was happening. I mean, I know they were messing with the food you get at grocery stores, but this is my first time hearing about people growing their own food, incapable of growing it. They're having trouble growing their own fruits and vegetables. I might have to dig into this and make another video on this, because this is alarming. I did not know this was happening. Of course, again, in the grocery stores, they're fucking with all of that. But how are they messing with the soil that we're growing our own food in? This is alarming, for real alarming.
I was having a conversation today with a friend of mine, and we were talking about privacy. Alexa was in the room when we were talking, and I said, that Alexa is probably storing every conversation you have in here and may or may not use that information against you later in the future. And we got to talking about rooms in our home and what is the safest room in the home to not be surveilled or spied upon by cameras in devices of all kinds. And I thought, maybe it's the bathroom, maybe it's the bedroom. But then I thought, I have a new TV. And not everyone has a TV in their bedroom. I do. I might remove it after this. But all of these new TVs have cameras in them. Are they recording? Do we really have any way of knowing? Where does that information go if they are recording, even when they're off? Who's looking at that information and why are they collecting it? Do we think this is going to be used for good or for evil? You know, all of these cameras, like flock cameras, they're being sold to us on the premise that it's for our own good. I don't think so. They're being sold to us as if you're not doing anything wrong, then you don't need to worry about this. What do you have to hide? Well, the majority of the population does not have anything to hide, but we do have something called dignity, human dignity. And there is a certain expectation that every single move you make, every conversation you have, every time you lift your child up into the air at a playground or in the swimming pool, that is not being recorded somewhere and stored in a data center that's killing the environment. It's being sold to us that it'll keep us safer. Well, in my experience, only about 10% of the population in any given environment, whether it's a classroom, a work environment, in society, 10% of the population is the problem. Not the 90% who are doing their best every day to feed their families, go to work, have some dignity, not commit any crimes. Those cameras are not for the 90%. Please think about this. Please start using your voices here. I don't agree with this. And I think there's a huge disconnect with the handful of people and the government that's allowing this. And I'm not anti-government, but I am anti-intrusion of privacy. God bless you.
Real quick, as far as the intrusion of privacy thing goes, my take on this is a little controversial. Personally, I don't care that much if they're using my data to track, what I buy every day or, whatever phone calls I have. And the reason why it don't bother me that much is because that ship is sailed. Like her video right now, anybody talking about mass surveillance in the year 2026, you need to understand that battle has been lost. If we're talking about it now, they were doing it 15, 20 years ago. Now, if it gets to a point where, hypothetically speaking, the American people had to form a militia and they had to coordinate or whatever, and then they were in those conversations and they were snuffing out the formation of militias or whatever, protest groups, whatever, then it would be a huge issue. But as far as privacy, invasion of privacy on a day-to-day basis and average everyday transactions, man, that ship is sailed, dude, since the Patriot Act, since before the Patriot Act. So if you have a problem, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a problem with it, but just understand that you are fighting a battle, not a losing battle, a lost battle. Or the invasion of privacy, that thing's done. That thing's done. You need to move on to the next battle. You can have it, but just understand you're fighting a lost battle. You should have cared about that 20 years ago, but we didn't know. So that one, the ship is sailed.
Those of us who are working on AI data farms right now and seeing the amount of money and labor and investment into this, and then you talk to some of your contractor friends, and the budgets just aren't real. It's almost like the amount of money they're spending on AI farms, it's like money's not even real. If you're working on an AI farm, drop a comment below.
Remember how I said I lived out in the middle of nowhere with absolutely nothing around us? What's that?
Check this out. I'm going to show you
that dude
how I
looks straight up Amish.
Okay, you ready? All right.
What is that? What is that for? Oh, a free country.
Yeah, that is weird.
What are you monitoring? And why are our tax dollars being used to enslave the people, I wonder?
You know, there's roughly 20,000 humanoid robots currently being trained to work retail, customer service, product demonstrations, front of house, anything to do with customers for walk-ins. And currently BMW, Mercedes, Amazon, Tesla are all using humanoid robots to build cars. BMW last year had 30,000 cars built with humanoids, at least humanoid assistants. And if you didn't know, currently in New York, they're testing out a humanoid teacher assistant, which we all know, if it works, will be replacing teachers. It's a trial program. Teachers union, not a big fan. Doesn't matter. We're all in trouble. So if you're not taking AI and AI technology very seriously with your job, I know what you're saying. What are they going to do if robots take over everything? How will we buy things? I don't know. But I can tell you, I got rid of my landscaper, the guy that cuts my grass, and replaced him with a autonomous little robot that cuts my grass every day. And it was inexpensive. It was cheaper to do that than to pay him the rest of the summer. He also didn't show up a lot, so just made sense. We're all in trouble.
So if you're a home gardener, I have a question. Are you seeing weird shit happen?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone that's not concerned about AI and automation in jobs. I think that's on everyone's radar at this point.
Been with what you've planted, because I am, and my sister is, and some friends of ours that have a garden have been telling us some interesting stories about what's happening, because we've done a couple of raised beds, and I'm out and I do my watering. I've given them some, some nutrients and some fertilizer, and everything was going great. I had like 5 or 6 green peppers that were coming up looking absolutely beautiful. And then we had a big rainstorm that popped up out of the blue, and I'm going, well, it's because of the humidity, right? And the next day I walk out and every single one of those green peppers were yellowed, beginning to rot, and pretty much dead and useless. I had a cucumber start to grow that was this big, bulbous on one end, and it ended up being like a baseball and then had a little nub on it. Friends of ours are reporting that their gardens are failing. My sister and my family plant a garden every year. They've had to redo beans 3 times. And what they're getting also in some of the squash and zucchinis are warped. They look more like gourds. So if this is happening in small gardens, can you imagine what's happening in the larger ones? But my question is, why after a rainstorm that just blew through out of the blue, did suddenly every one of my green peppers rot and die overnight? The f is going on? And if you're not paying attention to this, friends, to what's going on with food in general right now, well, people are starting to pay attention. But if you have something, you can please put it in the comments, because yeah, shit's failing. Take care.
You guys.
Yeah, this thing with gardens failing is super weird, man. I'm gonna have to do some digging on that. I might try to start making different kind of videos, not just like reaction video. Well, I guess it'll still be reaction videos, but compilations of things that I'm kind of researching, and that might have to be one of them, because that is definitely interesting. This thing about people not being able to grow food. You know, back in the day, I'm an OG conspiracy theorist, and chemtrails was the top of the list for a long time, right underneath adrenochrome and all that crazy stuff, which apparently is also true. But chemtrails have always been a hot topic in the conspiracy community, and the fact that people's gardens are failing, that kind of puts that back on my radar.
See that shit out in Oregon where they want to ban hunting and fishing? What in the is going on in this country? I mean, between that, these data centers, the ridiculous amounts of taxes that get extorted from us daily? How did we get here? What are we doing? It is beyond time for us to go to Washington, D.C. and drag these out by their head and all up. Dude,
I don't want to advocate for violence on this channel, so I'm not gonna co-sign that, but I believe in peaceful protests, but something definitely needs to change, man.
they're taking everything from us. And we just keep sitting here and letting it happen. Going to work every day, paying these ridiculous taxes. And then every time you get a bill in the mail, it's sky high. When are we going to stop it?
So in the 4 years since I bought my house, my property taxes have increased 30%. If American citizens can pay taxes based on the value of their home, why can't billionaires pay taxes based on the value of their assets?
Where's our money? Where is our...
I'm not going to, this is a pretty long video, and I'm super interested in this topic. I'll make more. Again, shout out to A Homestead Journey. I don't want this video to get too long, but yeah, man, something been off in this country for a very, very long time. I think, you know, there's definitely a conspiracy at play, but I also think this is just what happens in late stage capitalism. When the greed has no guardrails, you get to a point where everything's bioengineered, people are surveyed, and your data becomes the resource. Your data becomes the thing of value. Money becomes this thing that, you know, fiat currency was always kind of just an imaginary made up thing, but it becomes apparent when you look at the disparity of wealth between the common man and the top 1%. Things are crazy, and they're going to get crazier, no doubt, man. But again, shout out to A Homestead Journey. Y'all keep y'all heads up. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.